In our last episode, Beerus had come to Earth with his trusted attendant, Whis, to destroy Gogeta and Broly for accidentally going back in time and waking him up early, with a scheming Dr. Zuro eavesdropping on the two god-tier fighters. But when confronting the god of destruction, Gogeta made a bet with Beerus that, should the Saiyan win the fight, Beerus must take him to find the Super Dragon Balls so he can wish to return to his timeline. The stage is set in another dimension, where past Goku, Raditz, and Broly accompanied Gogeta as potential backup against Beerus. But little does the group know that regardless of the fight's outcome, the two elite warriors' clash will affect the fate of this timeline forever. With that, Gogeta charged at Beerus, and when the two clashed, their opposing energies caused a massive shockwave that would have torn through Bulma and her group like a tornado. Fortunately, Whis had effortlessly erected a barrier before the blast could touch her or her friends.
See? I told you all that you were safe with me.
Goku, however, fell on his knee when feeling Gogeta's almost offensive level of power.
What? What is it, Kakarot?
It's Gogeta. I can sense his power level and I've never in my wildest dreams could have imagined anybody being so strong. Like, I don't know how he's able to contain that power and not die from it. This guy doesn't even feel real.
But the same power that was crippling past Goku was nothing more than casual entertainment for the god of destruction. It didn't quite reach the same level of fun Beerus experienced in his dreams, but it was close, like playing a video game on casual mode instead of hard. So far, Gogeta was faster than any mortal Beerus had ever faced, and perhaps even faster than certain gods of destruction that he knew personally.
I see you're not completely useless after all. But this is basically me just tickling you.
Quite a few of Gogeta's punches and kicks broke through Beerus's defenses and caused another bruise or scar to appear on the man's body. Beerus hadn't felt physical pain in so long he almost missed the sensation.
This guy's good. Very good. I feel invigorated. I feel alive. Yes, warrior, give me more. I need more.
Although Gogeta recognized some of his attacks were hitting Beerus, Gogeta was also smart enough and hurting enough to realize that Beerus was tagging him far more times. For every punch he landed on Beerus, Beerus landed about 5 more. And although every single punch Beerus threw felt like being hit with a planet, Gogeta could tell Beerus was only slightly breaking a sweat.
Unreal. I'm a fused Super Saiyan for crying out loud. And yet I'm only doing as well against him as I did when I first became a god a couple of years back. This guy's too damn much.
Gogeta had decided to push his Super Saiyan powers as high as they could go just for the hell of it, and although his punches and ki blasts were landing faster and harder, his attacks were only barely causing surface-level damage to his future mentor. Gogeta fully realized the gulf of power between himself and Beerus when, while fighting in the air, Beerus twirled like a ballet dancer and struck Gogeta with a spinning kick that sent him crashing into the ground with a giant thud.
What the hell was that? Kakarot, could you see their movements at all?
Just barely. I only saw flashes, and that was only when they stopped moving.
Yeah, me too.
I'm surprised you guys could even see that. To me, those two completely disappeared.
The only people who were able to see Gogeta and Beerus's universe-shattering fight in all of its glory were Broly and Whis, who already found himself impressed by Gogeta's performance. A bruised Gogeta stood up on the ground.
I haven't fought you in so long, I almost forgot how incredible you are. I didn't think going Super Saiyan would beat you, but I at least thought, thanks to being fused, I'd be able to give you a little trouble. I think all I managed to do was warm you up.
You barely even did that, Saiyan. Waking up early was harder than fighting you.
Don't lie to me. I can already tell my other Super Saiyan forms aren't going to cut it with you either. So, I guess I'll have to go Divine quicker than I wanted to.
What?
Gogeta responded to Beerus by closing his eyes and posing the way he usually would when about to access his God Ki. Whis recognized what Gogeta was doing even before Beerus did. Then, with a quiet intensity, Gogeta had released the divine aura dwelling inside of him for everyone to see in all of its operatic glory. It was the first time since becoming a god himself that Beerus had truly been rattled, and at the same time inspired, by a mortal's power.
This is it. This is what I saw in my premonition. You've become a god. I can feel it. The divine energy flowing through you is absolutely astonishing. I have to say, before you die, you should take solace in knowing that you impressed me.
Still think you're gonna kill me, huh?
I have no doubt. Your power-up hasn't changed the outcome of this battle. It's only changed how long it'll take me to dismantle you and delaying my nap. I am curious, though. How did a mortal such as yourself achieve this kind of power?
Ironically, I have you and Whis to thank for that. During our battle in the future, it was because of you I figured out how to become a Super Saiyan god. Then, after being trained by Whis personally, I managed to reach a level even further beyond that. A Super Saiyan version of a Super Saiyan god.
Listening to this, Whis was becoming more and more captivated by Gogeta's remarks, wondering if he might have actually stumbled onto a potential god of destruction candidate, but also realizing that thought couldn't be anything more than a fantasy, since Gogeta technically wasn't allowed to exist in this timeline. At the same time, Bulma, Goku, and Raditz all wore the same almost traumatized expressions.
Are you guys seeing that? Now his hair changed to the same color as mine. What is going on? Is this that super whatever he was talking about just a minute ago too?
I don't know what that is. It's weird though. Just like that Beerus guy, I can't sense Gogeta's energy anymore either. It's like he completely disappeared. And remember what he told me, Raditz? He said I couldn't sense Beerus because he's some kind of god or something.
Kakarot, surely you can't be suggesting that this Gogeta has become a god too. That's impossible.
Actually, Raditz, your brother's correct. It appears your future brother and future Vegeta really did manage to tap into a power that's normally strictly hidden in the territory of the gods. How he pulled that off is beyond me. I guess future me must have made a really great teacher.
As Raditz processed this information, however, another glaring and distracting thought occurred to him.
Wait a minute. How does this blue man know my name? I never told him what it was. And how does he even know Kakarot is my brother? But I guess the question I should really be asking myself is, if this Beerus person is a god, then what the hell is the blue man? This is all so bizarre. I didn't even think the legendary Super Saiyan was real, but I knew, on the small, infinitesimal chance a Super Saiyan really existed, that was supposed to be the pinnacle of Saiyan power. The Super Saiyan should have been unrivaled. How could a form surpass even that? Well, if this Beerus really is a god in a literal sense, I suppose it would make sense that even a Super Saiyan couldn't compare to a deity.
But as Raditz pondered these questions, Gogeta and Beerus had seemingly vanished right before their eyes. This time, unlike before, neither Goku nor Raditz could even see flashes of the two divine beings. The only traces of them that were left were the shockwaves their battle caused that rippled through the dimension and perhaps even the multiverse.
This is unbelievable. It's as if the entire planet is trembling in fear.
Raditz, can you see anything at all now?
Not a thing! All I can do is feel their fight.
Having trouble watching the fight? I can help with that. Please, everyone, direct your attention to my staff.
The staff's eye briefly glowed before its crystal ball emanated a video as clear as high definition of Gogeta and Beerus fighting in the sky.
Fortunately, I've slowed down their speed just enough so you all can follow along.
Wow, you can do that? You're awesome, Whis.
And it looks like Gogeta's holding his own too.
The only mortal in the group who didn't need to look through Whis' staff was Broly, whose sharp, keen eyes could catch every second of Gogeta's and Beerus' battle. Meanwhile, Gogeta was decisively giving Beerus a run for his money. Whenever Beerus seemed to dominate Gogeta in a battle, Gogeta just increased his power even more to surpass Beerus' output and hit the god of destruction with a volley of kicks and punches that felt like they were coming from multiple Gogetas at once. Thanks to Beerus' mastery of Ultra Ego, every blow Gogeta delivered was also secretly making Beerus stronger to a point and more excited as well. However, admittedly, Beerus was finding it more and more difficult to keep up with, not only Gogeta's speed, but his techniques, which was supported by the near genius and combined battle IQ of Goku and Vegeta. Gogeta's and Beerus' punches and kicks kept clashing, giving each other deep cuts that might never heal, and intense body aches that were only numbed by the unparalleled adrenaline, excitement, and ferociousness that had consumed both of them. About 5 minutes into their battle, however, Gogeta knew that Beerus had marginally increased his power when he started pushing back the fused Saiyan, connecting with more punches and kicks before firing a devastating blast of purple ki that briefly knocked Gogeta out of the sky and into Precipice Point's hard surface. Out of breath and somewhat frustrated, Gogeta had decided to do the same thing he did when fighting Broly. Gogeta went for broke and tapped into his full power, the same power that initially caused him to break through dimensions in the first place. It was a power so vast and encompassing that for the first time in Gogeta's life, he saw a look that resembled genuine fear in Beerus's face.
This time-traveling mortal really is something else. Incredible.
Gogeta repeatedly kept using his instant transmission, passing Beerus around like a ping-pong ball, before crashing his elbow into Beerus's skull and sending him careening into the ground at a breakneck speed, and hit his arch-nemesis with a blast that swallowed Beerus's entire body whole.
Final flash.
The landing caused an explosion that seemingly enveloped almost the entire dimension of Precipice Point. It was a blast that surely would have killed Goku, Raditz, Bulma, and perhaps even Broly if Whis' barrier hadn't kept them all safe. And yet, despite Whis' protection, everyone inside that barrier still felt as if Gogeta's attack had struck them deep in their souls somehow. Even Raditz was feeling around his body, making absolutely sure he was still alive. Out of breath and sweating almost uncontrollably, Gogeta had descended back down to the ground among mortals. He knew that Beerus was still alive, as he could still sense the god of destruction's divine energy. But because Beerus's particular divine energy was still difficult to read in depth, because Gogeta hadn't had much practice with it, it was hard to make out how damaged Beerus really was.
I put more into that blast than I thought. I think I might be spent. I know that was a direct hit, though. What I don't know is if that was enough.
Everyone, including Whis, waited with bated breath for the smoke and debris surrounding Precipice Point to clear. When it finally did, Beerus was on the ground. Even Whis, with all of his knowledge of the multiverse, was shocked to see Beerus in the state that he was in. There was almost no space on his body that wasn't bleeding. Even when unconscious, Beerus looked like he was still in complete agony.
Oh my word!
Did Gogeta just win?
Yeah, I think he did.
Raditz, however, couldn't even rejoice at the victory with his crew. Even though he'd watched the battle through Whis' crystal ball, he felt he narrowly escaped death being caught in this petty war between gods. So much so that Raditz had almost regretted wanting to come to Precipice Point at all, whereas Raditz was hoping to become inspired and motivated by seeing Gogeta's power. A part of him had only gotten discouraged.
What did I just see? I'm determined to become as strong as I possibly can. So determined I'm willing to put my life on the line to acquire the kind of power Gogeta has. But I can never even imagine becoming as strong as these two monsters. They make Frieza look like a joke.
Unfortunately, however, it was a victory that was short-lived. Before Gogeta could even relax and declare victory, the fused Saiyan saw Beerus's feet move ever so slightly. The sound of rocks moving and sliding seemed like the loudest sound in the entire multiverse as Beerus shifted on the ground before opening his eyes. Gogeta let out a defeated sigh as Beerus stood on his feet, as if he was literally rising from the dead. The shock on Whis' face had worn off.
Gogeta really is an impressive fighter. He had me going for a second. I figured Lord Beerus might have withstood an attack like that under normal circumstances, but I thought, because he wasn't well rested, and he'd been slacking off on his training for so many years, his laziness had cost him the battle. Looks like that wasn't the case, though.
What do you mean you knew he'd withstand that attack? Are you saying Gogeta really isn't strong enough to take on that pet of yours?
Well, he's certainly very close, but he just isn't quite there yet. But I'm sure this was a wake-up call for my lord. And that is something I'm sure he appreciates, even though he won't admit it out loud.
Appreciated enough not to blow up the Earth, you think?
It was a question Whis didn't know how to answer. Bulma saw a genuine look of sympathy and compassion come over Whis' face when the angel had told her.
That's something we both will have to wait and see on.
Meanwhile, Now Beerus was fully on his feet, and although he was bleeding all over, Gogeta couldn't help but feel as though Beerus's clothes were more damaged than Beerus was. All the injuries Gogeta had given the god of destruction seemed to amount to nothing more than mere flesh wounds.
40%.
What? What do you mean?
That's how much of my power you forced me to use today. 40%. Or hell, maybe it was more. Maybe it was less. It's been so long since I had a decent fight that I can't really tell how much I hold back anymore. It's all arbitrary to me. What I do know is that you forced me to use a portion of my abilities that is, indeed, significant. And for that, time traveler, you have my praise.
Oh crap, he can't be serious. I knew Beerus was holding back, but I thought that Final Flash would have been strong enough to make up what little difference there is between us. I'd like to believe he's bluffing, but I guess I knew deep down that wouldn't be enough to put the cat down.
I can see why the future me kept you around. You gave me one hell of a show. If you were actually from this timeline, I probably would let Whis take you under his wing. But as a god of destruction, I just can't allow you to continue distorting this timeline any further than you have. I am not as soft as the Beerus you knew, and for the sake of my own authority, I need to keep it that way.
Yeah, sure. I get it. You don't have to keep repeating yourself, but you talk as if this fight's over already. I have plenty more tricks up my sleeve. I'm not going to quit, Beerus.
Unfortunately, that's not up to you.
With that, Beerus folded his hands behind his back, and for the first time in his life, he powered up to access a significant portion of his power. Perhaps it was 50%, perhaps it was 75%. Not even Beerus knew nowadays. However, the purple glow that surrounded Beerus's body and the dramatic and rapid increase of his divine power, which was driven by pure ego, had drilled it into Gogeta's skull that he might have never stood a chance at all. Precipice Point had shaken even harder than it did during Gogeta's and Beerus's battle, to the point where Bulma couldn't even stand on her 2 feet, and Broly had to catch her before she fell to the ground. When Beerus had finished powering up, an already exhausted and somewhat depowered Gogeta was briefly and momentarily frozen stiff. Beerus had never looked so terrifying.
So I won't prolong your suffering. I'll make this quick.
Determined to keep his word, Beerus went on the offensive. Gogeta couldn't even see the god of destruction as he appeared in front of him and overwhelmed him with a flurry of attacks that Gogeta simply had no answer for. Beerus was moving so fast that it almost seemed as if he was standing still while manhandling the fused Saiyan. Beerus slammed Gogeta into the ground, threw him into canyons that bounced him back, and struck him with a barrage of energy attacks that tore through Gogeta's skin as easily as it tore through his clothes. Then, Beerus put a period at the end of their fight with a simple, yet powerful, punch to the jaw as if to make a statement. Gogeta had crashed back into the ground and, lying on his back, his blue hair had completely faded to black, and his body, which was failing him, couldn't produce any more aura to comfort him. However, despite every single one of his limbs being useless, as if they were practically dead weight, Gogeta still managed, by the grace of Kami, to stand on his 2 feet. But barely. As Beerus sauntered over to Gogeta, he almost wanted to applaud the fused Saiyan for his resilience, but at the same time, wanted to scold him for his stubbornness. Beerus took a moment to stand in front of an already barely alive Gogeta. At this point, Gogeta knew he had nothing left to offer Beerus other than his life. But if he was going to die, he wanted to at least be on his feet and look at the god of destruction dead in his eye.
I'm not done yet. You can't kill me, Beerus. You'll never be able to kill me, even if I die.
A poetic choice of last words. But you are right, time traveler. I won't be able to kill you. Because even after I destroy your body, I assure you, you will continue to live on in my memory. I might even see you in my dreams again.
Beerus raised his arm and aimed his open palm at the fused warrior. Meanwhile, everyone inside of Whis' barrier was panicking. Even Whis himself, to a certain extent, was hoping that Beerus would spare Gogeta, who had proven himself to be a promising young talent.
Is this really going to happen? Whis, can't you do something? Him being here is not his fault. He didn't mean to wake anyone up early. He doesn't even want to be here.
I'm sorry, Bulma. If it were up to me, maybe I would interfere. But, admittedly, as a god of destruction, there are certain laws my lord has to abide by. And, if I had to guess, he's concerned if he spares Gogeta now, he'll end up as forgiving and vulnerable as his future counterpart. In a way, it's almost as if Beerus is trying to destroy a side of himself, so he can remain who he is. But perhaps I'll be able to convince my lord to spare your planet at least.
But as Bulma processed the information, Broly was already rearing to fight. His hands forming two giant fists, Broly had told Whis, as if he was warning the angel.
Whis, let me out of here. I'll stop him myself.
Oh!
But as Whis contemplated giving up his barrier so Broly could take a crack at Beerus, it might have already been too late. A giant ball of purple ki had escaped Beerus's hand and approached Gogeta at the speed of light with murderous intent. Gogeta didn't know where he found the strength. Perhaps it was reflexive, but he dug deep down to raise both of his arms. The purple ball of destructive energy crashed into Gogeta's hands, burning through his palms, as Gogeta screamed in agony while trying to push the ball of destruction back. The ball of destruction was winning, and was only seconds away from overtaking Gogeta completely and Hakkaiing him from existence. But just as Gogeta's body was about to give in, a familiar dam of energy he hadn't felt since the Tournament of Power had burst. A different aura had started to surround Gogeta now. Suddenly, the same ball of destruction Gogeta had struggled against mere seconds ago, he was now holding back casually. So much so, it felt like the ball of destruction had come from him. Letting out a roar that sounded far mightier than the roars of the great apes Saiyans could turn into, Gogeta sent the purple ball of destruction back towards Beerus, who had to duck to dodge it. Beerus's mind told him to continue attacking Gogeta, but his body froze. His mouth gaped open. His assistant, Whis, was equally as shocked by what they were seeing.
Oh man, what now? Is this another super whatever transformation he's doing?
No, this is different. It can't be. It can't be this. It's impossible. Not even most gods can attain this power.
This is the first time I've seen the blue man lose his composure since I've met him. If he's reacting like that, then whatever Gogeta's doing must be incredible. Or terrifying.
What Raditz didn't know was that what Gogeta was doing was both of those things. The god of destruction cleared his throat, and his body did something it couldn't believe it did. It took a couple of steps backwards, instinctively backing away from Gogeta without Beerus's consent.
No, that's impossible. I don't care who trained you. No one could have taught you to reach this form. I want to believe this is a joke or a trick of some sort. But I can tell, I can feel it in my bones. This is it. You've somehow achieved it. This is autonomous ultra instinct. How did a mortal like you achieve such an elite-level divine technique? Tell me.
However, when in this state, Gogeta only knew how to primarily communicate with others, using his fists. Now a man of few words, all Gogeta had told Beerus was,
I told you you wouldn't be able to kill me.
Beerus growled, both threatened, disturbed, and even slightly excited that a mere mortal had access to technique even Beerus had difficulty learning. This made Beerus want to kill him immediately, but also made the god of destruction want to keep him around to learn more about this peculiar warrior. Beerus, however, refused to allow his internal conflict to interfere with his battle. Although he wasn't exactly sure he'd need to tap into the rest of his power, he did so anyway, as a precaution. The dimension they were fighting in, known as Precipice Point, felt like it was about to crack under the weight of Beerus's godly wrath, as if the unbreakable dimension had met its match in Beerus's strength. Although Broly, Bulma, and the rest of the people in Whis' barrier were shaking about as hard as the dimension while Beerus charged his power, Gogeta couldn't have been any more unfazed. The fused Saiyan was so calm that his energy even gave Whis a few chills, which was a rarity for the angel. Gogeta was somewhat surprised to see that Beerus had bulked up a bit when powering up, and had gotten slightly larger as a result. After Beerus finished powering up, he wasted no time and flew towards Gogeta like a bullet. Beerus tried to hit Gogeta with a flurry of kicks, punches, and other martial arts maneuvers, but Gogeta had dodged Beerus' attacks with so much grace that to Whis, it seemed as though the Saiyan was dancing. It reminded Whis how some of his fellow angels moved when engaging in combat. Perhaps the only thing more graceful than Gogeta's dodges were his attacks, with each punch, kick, and ki blast he delivered, connecting with Beerus' body with deadly accuracy and precision.
I can't lay a finger on him. He hits as fast as he dodges, and it still feels like he's not even trying. It's almost like fighting Whis.
And as Beerus had gotten more and more desperate to land some kind of a blow, Gogeta was only getting calmer, because as the fight went on, it only became clearer that the God of Destruction's power paled in comparison to Ultra Instinct. After he was done giving his newfound abilities another test run, Gogeta felt he needed to finish off Beerus as quickly. What followed was akin to a massacre, with Gogeta overwhelming Beerus with his attacks. Finally, manipulating his ki, Gogeta had manifested a colorful ki ball that looked as though it was made out of a rainbow. It was a ball so beautiful that it looked deceptive in the amount of destructive and malicious power it contained. When he threw the energy ball at Beerus, to the God of Destruction, it felt like the entire multiverse had collapsed in on him. After the blast, once again, there was a blanket of dust surrounding and covering the area where Beerus was. Back inside Whis' barrier, past Goku, Raditz, Bulma, and even Broly were absolutely floored by the performance they just witnessed. Even Whis, despite his own power, couldn't even close his mouth after seeing the innate talent Gogeta had shown. For the first time in millions of years, Whis had wondered if Lord Beerus had finally met his match.